Okay, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. It is BTB Analytics, and we are back talking NFL playoffs, divisional round matchups. We got four really good games, I believe. So we're going to talk about all four of them, break down the data from what our models and what our other what our perspectives are. Hopefully, give you some value that's left in the marketplace from a future standpoint as well. So. All that and more just on the turn. Let's start the show.
Give a damn about a hater when I feel like it. Not today, not today, not today, not tomorrow. Get out my way, please. I'm trying to get paid. Not today.
Mr. Katz, hey, just it is tale as old as time, baby. Mr. All Reliable. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate everyone who's going to be watching this live or who will be tuning in after the fact. Again, we're BTB Analytics. This is the 3% Edge podcast. Kevin, Seth, and Steve with you. We're going to take you through all four of the divisional round matchups. Appreciate you guys being here. Don't forget to like the video if you can, please. If you're not, tell your friends, tell your families, tell your husbands, tell your wives. Subscribe to the channel. We're gonna be focusing a lot more on our YouTube in the very near future with the pending doom, sayonara, sunsetting of TikTok, which is kind of where we kind of came up in the space, so to speak. So definitely be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Okay, we got four good matchups, guys, on the slate. I'm really excited to talk about these and just excited for the weekend of football that is to come. So let's jump in to the first matchup. Why not, shall we? Let's talk about an AFC matchup here. Houston Texans going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. So this one opened at 8. I think Pinnacle actually opened at 7.5, and now there's really 8s or 8.5s out there. Earlier, Bookmaker was at a 9, so a little bit of I won't say disagreement, but not quite homogeneity throughout the market. So a little bit of difference there. But we make the number 8 when the market was at 8. So really, we're not showing any edge on either side at the moment now. But Seth and Steve, I mean, I wrote down a couple of things here, but like. How many times do we just come back to the old reliable in this one? And Mahomes is inevitable. Playoff Mahomes. Like, how much more analytical do we need to get with this one, or do we, in your opinion?
Can I make the case for why Houston could be an upset here? Yeah, I mean, I don't love it, but I can come to a game state where I think this can happen. Breaking down the numbers, Kansas City 4.9 points better than an average offense. Houston, negative 3.5 points worse than an average offense. So obviously, Kansas City takes the cake on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, though, is an interesting and a different story. Kansas City, negative 1.5 points better than a average defense. And Houston, though, negative 3.6 points better than an average defense. And for me, I think this is potentially where the game could be played and won here for Houston, where they can limit possessions. I think another really important stat for us is the drive quality. When we look at the offensive echo rate, i.e. quality drives, how often are these teams getting to the 40 or better? Houston's echo rate 48%, Kansas City 50%. So we're only getting a bump in about a 2% edge there in quality drives. But when we look at the points per those drives, we see Kansas City 5 points per echo, Houston 4 points per echo on those drives.
Okay.
So, to me, it's the defensive side of the ball. Can Houston limit some possessions? I know we have the one matchup where Kansas City just demolished Houston, but I'm not sure here that it's a 100% chance. No way Mahomes can't go down here, especially if Houston on the defensive side of the ball can limit those possessions. I think this could be a potential really good game. The one thing I want to, that where it kind of falls apart is Stroud's play. Stroud has really struggled this season, and when we look at what we're getting from the quarterbacks here, Mahomes has added 6.8 points in the last 10 games. CJ Stroud, negative 2.3 points added per game. So he's actually taken away points from his team in the last 10 games. And we've seen them get blown out. And quite frankly, in recent memory, and Kansas City's already done it. So It's hard because we came on this podcast. I came on this podcast last week, and I said Houston's dead. R.I.P. And then here I am potentially making the case. So it's a little bit of reaction on my end, but I wouldn't be completely stunned here if Houston can limit these possessions and at least cover here.
Okay, Steve, I don't know. Hearing that, how likely do you feel like a game state like that is to come to fruition? Or again, are we trying to find a needle in a haystack with this one? And is Mahomes again just inevitable? Because again, even for how good he is over his career in the regular season, his EPA per play, his success rate are better in the playoffs than the regular season. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, that has a well laid out argument, and it's very logical. Not a fucking chance, though. I'm not touching that. But in all seriousness, like this is one of the ones where I truly am glad that there's no value either way, because I couldn't mental model my way in either direction. On one hand, we've talked about this all year long. The Chiefs have not been a team that have really blown out and looked like the dominant Chiefs of yesteryear. Now, yes, they're definitely getting healthier and well, besides Mahomes' ankle and some other stuff, right? On the offensive side, especially with their receiving core kind of getting up to speed, you see what Worthy is doing out there. But on the other hand, like the Texans really have not, and I'll be, again, hands up, just like Seth. I was on this podcast last week saying the Texans have beaten no one good. They played really 1.5 halves of solid, great football, and they've really just kind of lost to any team that resembled a good team. Now, with that being said, yes, Houston put up 32 on LA, but it wasn't really Houston's offense. Herbert had 4 interceptions.
Yeah.
One of them was a pick 6. Like, you're not getting that. You're not turning Mahomes over 4 times. That's just not going to happen. And so, sure, never say never, right? But that's not going to happen, right? And so, like, if you're relying on that kind of tail end outcome, that's sort of extremely high variance, to have an impressive show out. Listen, I'm not taking anything away from Houston. That was an impressive showing. I just don't know how reproducible that is against a solid Chiefs team. And Mahomes, we said, is inevitable.
Yeah, and Big Dog echoes those sentiments. Yeah, again, the takeaways, not really something that you can count on, on a week-to-week basis, especially, Herbert is no Mahomes, frankly, right? And we all know what happens. At least recency bias, what happens in the playoffs when the Chiefs.
Well, can I make real quick? Can I make an argument to Seth's point, but just not nearly as analytical, but just to play devil's advocate? Can I get my devil on the shoulder, right? Again, we look at some of these Chiefs close wins, right? Some of these teams where Chiefs should have whooped somebody and they didn't. We got Chiefs over Chargers 19-17. Chiefs over the Panthers 30-27. Chiefs over Raiders 19-17. A game the Raiders should have won if it weren't for a botch snap as they were getting ready to clock it to kick the game-winning field goal, right? There's one more I'm missing too, I think, where the Chiefs had a last-second field goal. And then not to mention kicking the game off, it's not a bad team, but the Ravens, the toe seeing around the world out of bounds, right?
Yeah.
So again, like, yes, the Chiefs, look at their record. They are a great team. They'll continue to be a great team this year, but they are not flawless. They are not invincible by any means. And we've seen them be vulnerable to teams that they really shouldn't have been vulnerable to.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that,
but I couldn't agree more. And I agree that they don't turn the ball over. But what did we see? We were on Houston when they played Detroit. And what were they able to do? They got a bunch of picks in that game. We saw it in a playoff game. I mean, I agree, Kevin, you can't, quote unquote, hang your hat on that. But when we look at the defensive echo rate for Houston, only 40% of their opponent's drives getting to the 40 or better. Kansas City, 49% echo rate on defense. But Houston's offensive echo rate's 48%. They're damn near going to be able to play the offensive game they're used to playing. So what I'm concerned is you're going to limit possessions and quality drives for Kansas City, and you get into one of these games, 19-17, where whoopsie daisy, a field goal loses it for you, regardless of if you're able to make these turnovers. And you may only need one. Robbie's model, NFELO, makes this game 7. I did you guys a favor. I modeled this out every which way. When you use all of Stroud's data, you make this number 7. Now, we went with a more conservative approach, which is, our tried and true method, which is we stack some of these starts away as a rookie. In this case, that ends up being interesting because Stroud played really well as a rookie and then it's tailed off.
Yeah.
But when you start adding those rookie games in, he played a lot better. You get a little bit of better result. I'm just saying, guys, do not be surprised. At a minimum here, if Kansas City does not cover, this is 8.5. You can get 8.5 in the market.
Yeah, no, I hear you loud and clear. I mean, again, not really well talked about, at least in my opinion, at least in the kind of talking head circles. But in the back third of the season, including last week's performance as well, the Texans defense is a top 5 defense, and Mahomes hasn't played really a meaningful snap basically since Christmas. Like he's had more than a week off, right? The whole team's had basically 2 weeks off. No one showed up week 18, so there, I don't want to go into the rest versus Russ issue or kind of debate, but yeah, I guess I've been talked off the ledge a little bit here. I think there's a few game states where I can see if the Houston defense, that is, can keep the game, in a one possession state, and or just get a high variance, just one high variance situation, a large punt return, a turnover, like that could be the difference between covering and not covering. And I think that's very well within the realm of possibility here. So it's not going to be a weather game per se. It's going to be cold as shit, but no snow in the forecast. So should not really be too much of a detriment to Stroud and then the dome that they play in or are used to. So yeah, we'll see how all that plays out. But yeah, again, no official play from us on this one. We're just going to be sitting back with our popcorn, watching and enjoying.
Can I 2 things real quick? Shout out to our producer Eric. One, he mentioned Mahomes just had another kid. The only person undefeated all time is Father Time. Is that clock ticking for Patrick Mahomes? But 2, more importantly, I think Seth, we do another video on this. He had a note here. Clay Martin is reffing the game. Chiefs 6-0 with him reffing. We did a video last year when Warren Sharp had this thing about the referees. We do another one for
it's so cherry picked.
It's not even cherry picked. It's clearly, no offense, producer Eric. This stat means nothing. It means nothing at all. It is so easy to do the analysis, to look at their effect on overs and unders and covering, and when you actually measure this stuff,
PSA,
there's no true effect.
PSA.
But it's good. But listen, I do think that's worth, not necessarily on right here, right now, but I think that's worth talking about, like with the video, because you're going to see this over and over and over again. So I think it's a good.
Yeah, there was a funny thing actually, and I wish I could give credit where credit's due. But there was a thing about that going around Twitter, and the Chiefs records with Clay Martin. But the Chiefs are also a combined 32-0 if you loop in like 5 other referees. And the bottom line is they're just a good football team. Like they just win.
Yeah, they just win at a higher rate than normal.
Yeah,
like I never understand this argument. I think there's 6 or 8 man teams. There's a head referee, but there's 8 other dudes that their call is just as valid as the other guy's call. So I don't understand.
Right. Well, it's Ocean's 8, right? It's clearly it's a
yeah,
for sure. All right, yeah. Nonetheless, we'll see. It should be a good one to kick off the divisional round weekend. So, all right, let's move on. The other Saturday game, I believe, is going to be a doozy, baby. Should be just, oh my God, it's going to be fun. The Washington Commanders going up against the Detroit Lions here. So this one opened up at 8.5 in favor of the Lions. Now's again, as about an hour ago, mostly at 9.5 throughout the market. I think one of the makers, Circa's at 9. Actually, Pinnacle's at 10 at the moment now. So, yeah, this one's Steve. Again, we don't show any edge from a modeling perspective. We make the number 8, so no edge either way here. But like this one again, I don't know. I don't know what to fully anticipate, because there's one interesting thing that, the Commanders and Dan Quinn and what that team has done has been obviously like incredible all season long. We talked about a couple of times on this show, like, okay, when is regression going to hit basically for this offense and for this team? And for the most part, it hasn't really happened. I was talking about on here the Cliff Kingsbury effect, and the kind of inevitable, what I thought was going to be downfall of the offense, but clearly that has not really taken shape. So, yeah, Steve, what's the game script on this one for I think the odds-on favorite Detroit to kind of roll in this one, or do they even roll?
I mean, here's the thing. The game script is do whatever you want to do for Detroit. I mean, this is the thing, and this team has looked absolutely incredible, right? And we sat here and we talked about what 21 plus players on the injured reserve, and more who technically didn't make the IR. Most of them on the defensive side of the ball. And what do? They just continue to dominate week in and week out. I mean, you talk about next man up. This is actually kind of ridiculous how well their next man up is. And I know Seth, that's a good point he wants to show here, so I'm going to kick it over to him soon. But the one thing I do want to call out is, as good as Detroit has been offensively, don't forget, David Montgomery returns to practice today. He returned to practice.
Wow.
Right. Remember, he was only going to be gone for they were hesitant to put him on IR because they were getting second opinions of could he miss 3 or 4 games. They didn't want to commit him. He's back. Now, how effective he's going to be, TBD. Let's not get crazy. But this is not even a peak Lions team, potentially. So
yeah. No, and you make an interesting point here when we're talking about what they should do to attack this Washington team. So we're looking at basically something that we have made and developed, which is trying to quantify and understand how teams' game plan variance is changing week to week. So are they running more or passing more relative to the different types of defenses and teams that they may go up against? And Washington is an interesting case because they are below average both in passing and rushing. And so when you're saying, Steve, they can do whatever they want to do, I actually, I agree with you, but I also analytically agree with you. It'll be interesting to see, what they think is their strong suit, because what you see here for the Lions is this is a team that is going after matchups. And so it'll be interesting to see where they deem that they should go after those matchups, right? And is it going to be running the ball? Is it going to be throwing the ball? They are a run first team. They run the ball, I believe, at a 4% greater than average. And so is that something they're just going to run, roll with and run into and run with? Or are they going to, use that to start the passing game? And it's interesting. I don't know if there's an angle here for how to bet it. But I did find it interesting because there isn't a go-to MO for how they're going to be able to move the ball. And I think that makes this team even more dangerous because theoretically they should be able to pass and run the ball all over Washington.
Yeah. Okay. Can I introduce a couple little quick tidbits to see maybe if this is where we kind of put our eggs in the basket as far as an angle standpoint. So you take going back to the matchup game variance model and everything, and talk about, okay, where does Washington struggle on defense? But if part of the analysis for Detroit is what does the offense and maybe Goff in particular do well versus certain coverages, here's a couple tidbits. Washington is runs man coverage at the 6th highest rate in the league. Okay. And against man coverage, Jared Goff, number 1 in the league in EPA per dropback, number 1 in completion percentage, and in first downs per dropback. So a couple little interesting nuggets, at least in my opinion, where they might look to this and say, hey guys, I think we can really early and often really exploit, if they're going to stick with the man coverage, presumably, right? We're going to stick with this matchup and we're going to hit him on the edges. We're going to go over the top with Jay Will. Amon-Ra is going to do his little wiggle and dance out there and just cut this secondary apart. So I can see an angle where Goff props, his completions, his attempts come to fruition in this one.
I mean, and no doubt they got
dudes, real quick,
right? Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Seth.
I was just gonna say they have dudes on a wide receiver. Detroit does, and that's the man beater, right? It's who's the better athlete, and I agree with that. I agree with that analysis, and those stats are pretty big in that if you're looking on where to strike, that's probably where you're going to do it.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. Hey, quick question. And I don't want to take anybody off, but do you guys have unabated open right now? I'm just curious. Shout out, if you need an odd screen, unabated.com. use code BTB, free 5-day trial. Have we seen what the total has done?
Yeah, I looked at that. It's 55.5 and actually really hasn't moved a ton off of open. Bookmaker and Penny also at 55, and it's pretty much where it opened. And I know it's going to be the popular take, and I'm sure maybe you guys have seen circulated some of the anytime touchdown odds for some of the players, like -320, -400 for like Gibbs and Montgomery, like crazy, disgusting stuff, So we don't obviously we don't model out the totals per se, but like this is a game where unfortunately it's not sexy, but you're going to find if you dig deep enough and try to research some correlated angles here, there's going to be some values on a few unders plays, but haven't really dove deep
my
into
thought
that
here
yet.
though,
But
my thought here is, and I don't have a play necessarily one way or the other on the total having like an edge on what the number should be. Obviously, this is going to be an inflated total because two good offensive teams. But we thought we were going to get that last week with Commanders and Tampa Bay, and that one ended up being 43 total. But here's what I found interesting about that game, right? So the Commanders went for it on 4th down 5 times, and those weren't all like in the game. You have to have that. Commanders are an average team in terms of overall 4th down attempts, and so what to me that signaled was you have a team because Dan Quinn came out and said, we cannot let Tampa Bay be on the field all game long. We will not hold up. That was his actual quote. And so if that's your approach to a team that you believe is offensively elite in Tampa Bay, and they are pretty good, I got to imagine you're going to do more of the same against Detroit, which is a better offensive team. You pair that with Detroit having the 4th most 4th down attempts this year of any team. I don't know if there's going to be any punts this game. And I'd say that kind of tongue in cheek. But
Again.
What's kind of interesting though, right? The top 4 teams, I believe, there's the Browns, the Bears, the Giants, and the Lions. Now, which one of those teams are not like the other when it comes to garbage time, having to go for 4th down because the game's on the line, blah blah blah, right? Meaning they go for it because they want to go for it and they know they can get it. That may be something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. Washington sounds like should just not dress the punter because they didn't punt last week, which is crazy. Crazy stat.
Yeah, can you get player punt props?
But wait, I want to push back on that. You said Tampa Bay's defense is good. They're not.
No, I said their offense.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But I think this is different if you look at who Washington has lost to. It's really physical teams. Dallas, they've been able to drive the ball on defenses that we knew they'd be able to drive the ball on. I'm not 100% certain that if Detroit can do 70% of what they did against Minnesota, it will be very difficult, in my opinion, for Washington to be able to move the ball. But to your point, Kevin, with the angle for Goff completions over at FanDuel, make every moment more. -102 over 23.5, -102, 2.37% edge. It's the only over edge for Goff in the market. You basically have to get the -102 or basically we're better. But everywhere else, -125, -120, -130. So if you want to be a golf flyer, make every moment more over.
There you go. All right, yeah, but again, this one I'm gonna be glued to the TV on this one. I hope it's as fun as my mind is making it out to be. I'll just say that.
I don't. Detroit +130 to win the NFC. Detroit versus everybody. Let's go, baby. I hope it's a bloodbath. And I think it will be.
We'll get there. We got some futures talk as well. Because even just a week after we talked about some last week, there's some new interesting value, I think, for the sim. So we'll talk about that. But yeah, to your point, fine. Detroit versus everybody. Let's go, baby. Let's go. All right, let's move on. Other NFC matchup in the divisional round: Los Angeles Rams and the Philadelphia Eagles here. So Rams coming off their impressive win against the Vikings. And the Eagles taking care of business. Who do they play? I'm drawing a blank.
The Packers.
Packers. Oh, yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. All right. So this one, Bookmaker and Circa opened at 6, it looks like, and Pinnacle was at -5. So again, a little bit of a early disagreement, but not far off. Now this is pretty much at 6 throughout the market. I do see there is a 6.5. FanDuel's got a 6.5, but pretty much 6s else throughout the market currently. So, yeah, I think I think this is not necessarily highly analytical, but I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. Like going into the matchup with the Vikings, we kind of saw what happened in Week 18, and there was obviously some signs that train was getting derailed pretty quickly. Sam Darnold was really crashing back down to earth, and that held last week as well. And I just thought generally the matchup was great for the LA Rams. We talked last week about the blitzing and how the Vikings like to blitz, but Matthew Stafford is really good against the blitz, and he just proceeded to do Matthew Stafford things and pick them apart. I think this one sets up a lot more favorably for Philadelphia, but it kind of scares me. It kind of scares me to high heaven this one. I think there's the sort of unquantifiable element here of like momentum and just kind of like the Rams playing for more shit that's bigger than themselves with all the stuff that's going on in California and the fires, So there's no way to really quantify any of that type of stuff, but to try to, we have a model again. We talked about it. Like, let's try to spin it and erase as much noise as we possibly can here. So Seth, given that this, let's pull up the graphic again. And again, we don't really show an edge on either side. We make the number 6 here. So what is, for the sake of our Philly futures here, what's the game script got to be for Philadelphia to at least win in this one?
Yeah, I mean, so LA is 3.1 points better than an average offense. Philly 7.6 points better than an average offense. Defensively is where these teams are very different. LA 2.2 points worse than an average defense. Philly negative 7.7 points better than an average defense. So both offensively and defensively, Philly is better here. The drive quality stats are interesting. LA, they have a 49% offensive echo rate, but 4.6 points per echo. Philly 56% echo rate with a 5.0 points per echo. So LA is actually squeezing more points out of less drives, which I thought is a little bit interesting. And then when we look at the defensive side of the ball, no surprise, Philly takes the cake. LA with a 50% defensive echo rate, Philly with a 42%. But if you want, for me, a case, so I think the base case here is Philly's better team. They're better offensively. They're better defensively. They should win. When you're talking about the game state here, the game state that is going to be the most concerning is the quarterback play. Hurts, 7.5 points added in the last 10 games. Stafford, 7.7 points added in the last game. I think you might be buying and getting the better quarterback if you're wanting to be an LA backer here. And you're talking about momentum and, quote unquote, where these teams are, current form. This team looks really, really, really good. And I am concerned here. Philly, in my mind, did not just handle business last week. I am not exaggerating when I say Green Bay had, by the second half, 0 starting wide receivers. This is the complete opposite situation you're going to have with Stafford and literally with some of the best wide receivers in the league and healthy. We saw what they could do in that game last week. I'm just really concerned here that Philly did enough to win that game. We're talking about the first play of the game, a turnover that is questionable. They score off that. They don't score another. They only score one more touchdown, I believe. And Green Bay was able to move the ball, and they were able to do it on the ground. So I have to say, for the Philly futures, I'm a little worried here.
Steve, talk me down, baby. Talk me down, because I'm debating, and I'm working through what the hedge opportunities are to kind of guarantee something on these. Because right now, both of those tickets using the double dip are worth about 125% of their original value. So we got, I could cash out one ticket and realize some ROI to cover to cover the cost of both tickets plus some. But should I?
Oh yeah, no, I'm not the person you want to ask that. You know what I want to say.
I know.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. This is one I couldn't agree more with Seth. This is one of the ones where you look at the box score and it looks like Philly absolutely dominated. But Jalen Hurts, concussion protocol, things coming back, he didn't look all that great. But to be fair, he didn't have to, right? Like Saquon Barkley in that run game, and that's really been the Eagles' MO all year. I mean, you look at the graphic, look at their pass rate over expected. It's negative almost 10%, right? When you have a Saquon Barkley and a great offensive line, don't get cute. You don't need to make Jalen Hurts the man. versus LA is a team that we've been saying has been on the upswing since what was there 1-3, 1-4 start. They had ever since kind of week 5, week 6, they sort of flipped this script here, and then here they are right now. So I really don't have any great advice for you. I actually was hoping you guys can talk me down from the cliff on another bet here. If I could run something by you here.
Okay.
So DraftKings make every moment less. Blue DraftKings,
much less.
Yes. They have these. So people think about the touchdown score bet. And if you're watching this, you probably look at these. You open up any sportsbook app. It's anytime, first TD, last TD, whatever it is, and it's always the plus whatever number for the most part because it's only yes, right? And that's just a quick tangent. If you guys are doing these kind of bets, please be sure whether there's TD scores, yards, receptions, whatever. Go through, try to find where you can see yes and no or over and under, not just one-way bets. The hold on those are crazy. You're not getting great odds. You're getting screwed, but there's no way for you to know because you don't see what the other side odds are. Just a little bit of a sports betting tip there for you. However, DraftKings is the only one I've seen that has not just a touchdown scorer, but they have to not score a touchdown.
Oh, they have a no market.
Wow. Yes, they have a no market. It's way down the bottom. Classic DK shenanigans.
Of course,
but it's there. But then they also have essentially it's a parlay. They also they have this bet segment of either player to score a touchdown, yes and no, right? And so the hold there for the most part is around 4.5 to 6%. 4.5 is kind of your standard minus 110 for those guys who don't know. So what I'm saying all that to say, I dabbled last week and I'm debating on dabbling this week. So there is a Dallas Goedert, Puka Nacua, no touchdown for a minus 105. I was running a couple of things by you. All right. Okay. First and foremost, individually, Dallas Goedert, no touchdown, Puka Nacua, no touchdown. Dallas is minus 500, Puka's minus 225. If you actually parlay those, it's like minus 136. So there actually is value from just taking those listed odds and parlaying them together versus what they're offering you in this sort of combination.
Or does that just remove the hold? And just getting to like the fair price.
Yes, no, you're 100. Yeah, right. Okay, so Dallas Goedert, he's had 2 touchdowns all season. Now he did have one last week, 4 catches, I think like 37 yards. 2 touchdowns, one have been 24 yards, the other one was 17 yards pass catching. So it's not like he's getting targeted necessarily in the red zone or in goal to go, deep in there at the goal line. Like they're explosive plays. By definition, they're explosive plays. Puka Nacua, 3 touchdowns all year. He does have a high target share, but that's not necessarily in the red zone, at least for touchdown sakes. So the thought process here is you have 2 players that do not accumulate for a lot of these teams' touchdowns. As a game script, you don't expect Philly to throw the ball a lot because they run the ball and they can exploit LA there. On the flip side, Philly's EPA per pass defense is pretty damn good. So you can expect, at least theoretically, some tough times for Puka Nacua on that standpoint. At a minus 105, I'm kind of finding a hard reason to not bet it. And I fundamentally don't bet TD score props or non-TD score props, but this one's kind of staring me in the face here.
Yeah, they're if the target share and the volume, I have no reason to doubt anything that you just said there in terms of that stuff. But yeah, I don't hate that at those odds, just at face value, like just what you said, strictly from like a top-down perspective. Like, yeah, even if you're just getting quote unquote fair price by compared to parlaying them, it's interesting because you got to have the Nacua one is what scares me. Like I would, if it was Goddard and like Cup, I'd probably hammer that. Yeah,
that's random. What more?
No. Like his target share, like everything about Cup has really been going down. But Nacua is kind of not gonna say the opposite, but he's definitely target number 1 for Stafford. So I don't hate it, but yeah, I don't have enough to be like squad right, baby.
Yeah, so there is some validity to what you just said, Kevin. So I'm just trying to look at, like you're saying, what is the market saying about the target share? So right now there is value on under Nacua, 7.5 receptions. the median of his distribution is 7.48, and you can basically get at DraftKings, you can bet a -105 under 7.5. So his targets are going to be about 7.5 targets. Goddard set at 3.5. His number's right there. So, but if you Cup, you're right. Cup's only 4.5. So, his share is actually a lot less.
Is there a Goddard and Cup? Can you do that or no?
Probably price different.
Yeah, I would assume so, but okay. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, Steve. If you sprinkled on it last week, hey,
I've already bet it. I just wanted to see if
all that just to say.
All right. Well, Godspeed. Well, if you're betting it, why not just Puka under 7.5 -105? Same odds.
Yeah,
because less like he can.
Because you already bet it. That's why.
Yeah. Well, no, and not to spend too much time on this, but like the thought process, honestly, Seth, was I do expect Philly's defense to at least shore up. I do expect LA to struggle a little bit scoring per se in this matchup. And I'm kind of low on Puka in the end zone just based off season averages. To your point though, 7.5. Yeah, I'm not mad at that whatsoever, but. I just wait for me to stick it to DK because to me it's like there's a vulnerable line here.
Okay,
but that's just me.
The under 7.5 -105 is at DK if you want to stick it to him more.
Okay,
3%.
All right, yeah. Last thing with this one, who knows how much of an impact it'll be? Weather could be somewhat of a factor. Right now, forecast it's still early in the week. There could be about 1.5 inches of freezing rain / snow. In Philly, so we'll see if that does anything. Not so sure about the wind factor and all that yet, but could be something that in theory affects the Rams a little more than the Rams more than the Eagles, but who knows. So we'll see this one. Yeah, go Birds. I'm hoping. Like I said, we don't have an edge either way on this one, but yeah, I will. I'm probably going to hedge out a little bit of the futures position. If I keep it, plus 1,500 is the futures position we're sitting on. If they go all the way and win it, it'll add about 15% to the bankroll. Which
nice.
If I start hedging out now, then I could at least in theory guarantee about 5%.
Yeah,
so I think it's a relative no-brainer from that standpoint.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. We got one more matchup though. Let's talk about it. Should be a really, really fun one again for the nightcap for the weekend. The Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills. Bookmaker Pinnacle. This one opened at -1 in favor of Buffalo. Circa actually opened at +1, it looked like. And now it's pretty much Bills +1 throughout the market. I think there's in a couple of expensive +1.5s. Out there, so technically the market is flipped on this one, but not by a ton here. The only bad thing about this matchup, like in my opinion, is that one of these teams has to lose.
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, and we're not going to be able to see Josh Allen and or Lamar Jackson advance past this one. But yeah, I want to touch on an interesting bit that we also discussed last week. For again, large part of the season, particularly the first half of the season, Baltimore was a pass funnel defense. They were not good, right? And the back half of the season, particularly the last 7 or 8 weeks, they've been a top 3 defense. It's been crazy stuff. So you look at how these teams stack up to each other, and let's just pull up the graphic here one more time. And we don't have the rankings, but it's basically like 1A and 1B, especially offensively with these two teams here. So again, we make the number -1 when the market was at 1 here in favor of the Bills. So still not going to show any edge on either side. But yeah, what are you anticipating, Steve, in this one, and how do you see this game stay going?
I mean, to me, this is, and I think the model agrees here. This is the quintessential coin flip game, right? To the point now, you can say maybe a little bit of directionality for home field advantage, but like this is a great game. And there's quite literally no outcome that you can throw at me where I say, well, that couldn't happen, right? I mean, we've seen both these teams really do well and excel in the areas that they're supposed to sell in. You look at Baltimore and their ability to run. Yes, of course, Bills defense has been good against the run. This season, they're top 5 in terms of EPA per rush defensively, and then Baltimore is also really good against the rush defensively as well. And to your point about not being the pass funnel. So for me, I think what's going to come down to here is which defense can really step up, because I think we expect both of these offenses to have success. I mean, we haven't seen them really be slowed down or generally stopped all that or too often this season. And I don't really have a great outcome on either way. I'm going to be completely honest with you. But this is the one I will absolutely be watching as a fan. And I'm glad I get to enjoy it without the stress of having to root for one team, because I want both these teams to win. I would rather both these teams tie and then just kick out both the Texans and the Chiefs and then replay it again for the championship.
And then again for the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And then get for the Super Bowl.
Yeah. No, I agree. In the I couldn't agree more. This is a coin flip game. In the art or the science of trying to find the people an edge, Kevin already hinted to it. Pass funnel. This is interesting. We made a bunch of money betting on or really against Baltimore's pass defense. They are now in the quadrant of elite, but look who is now the pass funnel team, Buffalo. So the question becomes, should we be targeting Lamar and co? Well, really Lamar for his completions. And the reality is there is value in the market. Over 17.5 minus 120 at BetMGM, 3.62% edge there. We make his numbers median distribution 18.7 completions. Right here. Here's his median, and the best number is right here over at MGM. So I think it is a potential play here. I don't know. You guys talking me off the ledge.
Yeah, go back to the game variance charts again real quick here. So
they are off the charts. We've made so much money on the Detroit, but like they are, and most of these teams actually struggle with injury. This is the one team that actually you could argue is maybe the brainchild or the best example of this. They're going after the most matchups and changing week in and week out.
Yeah. Was Zay Flowers out last week?
Yes.
Is he back?
Don't know.
Not sure. Okay. That would be a consideration. I don't think that would be the kicker for me and my.
But look at Pittsburgh. So you wouldn't have a pass funnel, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of disagree. Like looking at that game will be noisy because you wouldn't expect them to pass more in that game, even though they're down a guy.
Yeah. Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
It's margin. This is marginal. This is really marginal.
Yeah.
You're one game away where Baltimore has a really good defensive secondary game, and then all of a sudden Buffalo's now in the quadrant of elite. And same goes for Baltimore. They're one bad game away from being back in the, you kind of want to see them way over here, down here. Mm-hmm. But I mean, we saw Tampa Bay, Washington had success. A lot of teams have had success. Minus 120.
Yeah, no, that's for 18 completions, isn't it?
Yeah, 17.5.
18, yeah. Over 17.5 minus 120 over at BetMGM.
I don't hate it. I just don't love it. But but I think let me see what the market is doing on the
while you're looking, here. Can I just
go for it?
Opine. So to that point, Seth. All right. So last time these two teams played, Lamar Jackson 13 for 18 was his completion attempts. However, Baltimore won 35-10.
Yeah.
And Baltimore was up like 28-10 in the third quarter. So like at that point, you have a team that already runs 10% over average, milking a lead. There's no reason to ever throw the ball. However, if this is a game strip where this game becomes a lot closer, or if Buffalo is leading, then all of a sudden, those extra, those extra 5 completions actually kind of makes it's well within reach.
Okay, Seth, give me a visceral take on, I guess we'll call it correlation on this one. So if in theory there's going to be value on the quarterback's completions and or attempts, would you expect there to be some value somewhere with respect to the receivers and their receptions?
Yeah. These receptions have to go. These completions have to be
pinned
to
go somewhere, right? Yeah. Okay. So So along those lines, you just look at what the market has available now. No Baltimore tight end, running back. I don't even see him. I'm looking for a Zay. I don't. Zay Flowers isn't even listed yet, so I guess his playing status might be TBD still. But of the listed players currently available, there's no edge. There's no EV on any of the Baltimore players. So maybe use that as a data point at least.
That what?
That there might not be as much value on the Lamar over as we think.
But
wait, can I?
yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
but to your point, I mean, so this would be true if there were value to the under, but there's no value on the under either, which just means they're accurately, quote unquote, accurately priced.
No value to the under as well. That's correct.
So
yeah.
I'm not buying high. I'm betting, I'm going to the store buying water bottles before the tsunami hits. Right? That's the thesis, at least. I'm not overpaying for the water bottles. I'm just paying what they're worth, thinking that at this point we're at Tuesday. These markets are not usually open this long. These are like,
that's true.
Circumstances that, we were buyers early. That would be my counter argument. I'm not saying that for sure that there's value. I'm just making the counter argument, so to speak.
Yeah. Can I add one last thing? In that game, again, Ravens, Bills, where they won 35-10, Lamar had 5 pass attempts in the entire second half.
Yeah.
So do with that
but there is a game state at a -1 spread, +1 spread. We've talked about this in the NFL. I feel like the NFL is so susceptible to this. This game is not a shootout. It's a blowout. Again. And we get the same thing. I don't know. I'm just trying to help the people.
Sure.
I don't
dislike it. Yeah.
I feel it.
Or help the people be as degen as possible. Is this a Sunday game or a Saturday game? This is a Sunday game.
Sunday night. Or no, I guess Sunday afternoon. Technically, there's no.
I guess I don't know how degen people are. I'm not a Sunday indulger of the good times, but you could cook up a hell of a parlay here. Over, to your point, Kevin, like you take some over likely reception, some over Justice Hill. No, I don't know who he seemed to target. Was it Justice Hill? Who was the other main target in that?
Bateman, Rashad Bateman.
Yeah. So some Bateman overs, which I don't even see Bateman.
Yeah, that's. I think the market's largely waiting on the Zay Flowers to probably price him.
Yeah, which is going to have a propagated.
Right.
So, maybe now's not the time to buy the receivers, but it is time to buy Lamar, because if we say those passes got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And actually it's a fair point too. That game script, that game plan probably lays a lot on if Zay Flowers is healthy, right? You're probably much more willing and wanting to game plan towards throwing the ball if he's going to play. So
yeah.
Sure.
Can I say one last thing before we move on? To your point, and to people, if you're going to make this, 2 things I would consider. One, completely subjective. Remember, Allen versus Lamar. This is the MVP race. So ego, look, this is the game, if any game, for Lamar to prove himself. Not prove himself, but show the haters. Maybe he throws a little bit more. Again, that's more subjective. 2, again, going back to the game state of the previous game, if you're Buffalo and you got whooped last time, you have to stack the box like a box has never been stacked, which means you're going to have your receivers one-on-one. You're going to have man coverage. You're going to have those opportunities to throw for Lamar. So just saying.
Yeah, well, and is in a way this data point that we've developed, is this like a early signal? Meaning, I couldn't agree more that that's the game plan for Buffalo. But unfortunately for Buffalo, they are a pass funnel team, meaning they've been stacking the box. That's what they've been doing. And we're going to see it coming. So we think that that's what they're going to do. And we're a team that is, the number 1 team in my mind for chasing those matchups. They're able to see the signal and, put a game plan in place that is exactly attacking what you just, highlighted. Because again, that is what a run funnel team or a pass funnel team is. It's a team that it's very difficult to run the ball against, but it's easier to throw the ball against. So we'll see.
Cool.
Oops, sorry about that. Okay, yeah, should be fun. It's gonna be another cold game, but as of now, no adverse weather expected in this one. So, but it's gonna be a fun one to top off the weekend for sure. All right, let's zoom out now. We previewed all 4 matchups, and let's talk about a little bit of NFL futures simulations value a little bit. So here's our EPA landscape with the remaining playoff teams here, but also we kind of ran and updated some sims as well and we're showing a little bit of additional value here on a couple of teams. So looks a bit different from last week. Last week we talked about there being value, and there still is value and edge on the Lions to both win the conference and win the Super Bowl here based on the current market odds, which I presume Seth was ran today
and all from FanDuel. So
all from
as of
FanDuel.
like 2 p.m. Mountain Standard. Those are all available.
Okay. So if you want to, if you're a Ravens backer or believer, now is the time to get in on that.
Percentage. But yes, but do we see the other huge thing here?
That Kansas City tax?
Yeah, the Kansas City. That's beyond a tax. I don't even know what the word for 23%. Like, you could see the Sims make this plus 419. They're the favorite to win the AFC.
Yeah,
guys, what is beyond talking me off the ledge? I'm currently free falling. Don't you have to take Bills and Ravens right now?
Yes,
I've done the math. It's a 72% chance that one of those teams win the AFC. The market is saying there's only a 61% chance one of those teams win the AFC.
Yeah.
And to your point, it sucks that one of these teams is going to lose this week.
Yeah.
But both Bills and Ravens can beat Kansas City. The Ravens lost in a game that you could argue they were about to win / whatever. He was out of bounds, but it was the first game of the season.
Right.
And the Bills beat them. So, I mean,
right.
Can
I make one degen suggestion? So listen, if you're new here, clearly we're all about data. We're all about trying to give you best smart bets and how to bet with an edge. That's our MO. I think that's very clear. Lions, Ravens, Bills, that's where you want to be at if you're making the future based off of this. However, if you're like, listen, I live for the long odds. I live for the long shot. Be damned with your safe plus 100 odds. What if instead of taking the Texans money line against the Chiefs, you took the Texans to win the conference, if banking on a cash out value if they get to the AFC Championship at plus 1,600, they're still going to be dogs without a doubt, right?
Yeah.
But that distribution for the Chiefs has to go somewhere, right? Is there any thought on?
Yeah, and it goes right to Baltimore or Buffalo.
So they're plus 1,600 again for the AFC Championship.
Yeah. I mean, no, but yeah, basically. So what you're saying what? Take Houston money line this week and then roll it over next week?
No. I'm saying because Houston money line I think it's only like plus 350 or plus 390. Someone can fact check me this week. What I'm saying is if the AFC Championship, if Texans are plus 1,600 to win the AFC, and you put something on that, what do you think the new odds? Next, if it goes from plus 1,600 to plus 1,000, right? Or maybe let's say plus 800.
That's what we make the number, plus 1,000.
Yeah. So if it goes from plus 1,600 to plus 800, purely as a hypothetical, right? Knowing that you're not going to get a fair cash out value, but if that cash out value is more than plus 390, right? Let's say that cash out value is plus the equivalent of plus 700 or 800. You're cashing out anyway. So you're essentially getting more instead of the plus 350 or plus 390. Now, again, you're making a hell of an assumption because we don't know what that number is going to be, even if they're going to give you a cash out value. But that's to say, if you want to be degenerate, I'm just curious about, that kind of chaos.
I don't know that the math actually works out better than just grabbing plus 240 Buffalo, plus 210 Baltimore, because I think most of this edge for Baltimore is that both of those teams are going to be highly favored against Kansas City.
Oh yeah, no. This is nothing to do with your edge and logic. This is for the people who want a long shot play. But yes, of course, that is the better
plus
way.
Plus 210, plus 240 is not long enough.
I don't get
Oh no,
excited
for the
unless it's 4
DGen.
digits.
Oh, that dude, I
I
barely.
disagree.
Yeah,
This
no
is
one's getting
horrible
hard for
advice.
plus 210.
Why are you're gonna bet one? You're gonna bet 1,600 just to hedge out. Just bet the money line this week and then roll it over and bet it again. I think you're gonna win
No,
more money
I
that
would
way.
say I would disagree. I would say if you're gonna do that, just double dip and keep the 1,600 one for the conference. Why
Okay.
not?
I guess. So what's the thought here on Baltimore Buffalo? It sounds like you guys aren't even taking this. Like this is just
No. I'm buying what you're selling a little bit here, and I was just shopping around real quick in real time. So
can you
so
beat these numbers?
can be books you can. So
Mm.
Bet Rivers, Ravens you can
Shout
get
out.
plus 225, and Bills plus 250. So it's not a ton better, but slightly better.
Oh,
Every
I have a real time calculator.
so every bit counts there.
225
yeah.
and what?
225 and 250.
Okay, so a little bit there.
Yeah, so the odds that populated on the sim results on unabated were a little stale, but yeah, still
Well,
appear to be better.
no. The sim probabilities are exactly what they are. You're saying the edge, meaning when you
I'm saying
compare that to
that. Okay, yes, the edge technically,
Yeah.
but the
you can
even
get a
if
little
you
bit more
just
edge.
yeah, you get a little bit more edge. Like the odds that populate on the odds screen is
Yeah. Mhm.
not
So the
accurate.
conference market odds, you can get 225 for
Yep.
Ravens, you said, and
Yep.
250 for Baltimore.
For
So
Buffalo.
you'll get
Buffalo,
you'll get more edge there in the edge column.
Right.
Yeah.
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 No, I'm buying what you're selling. I mean, as much as as much as a 3P would be, I guess, kind of cool to witness. Fuck that. I'd rather
So
play the numbers a little bit.
just to your point of DGen bet, a good DGen bet, positive EV DGen bet is Baltimore or Baltimore versus Ravens as Super Bowl matchup or Buffalo. Or
Wait.
sorry,
Wait, say that again.
no.
Yeah.
Baltimore versus Lions.
No, okay, yeah.
Super Bowl matchup or Buffalo versus Lions Super Bowl match. I think those are plus 500 and like plus 520. Those are
Okay.
EV as well.
Make every
Okay.
moment more.
Only like 4%. Make every moment more. FanDuel has that
FanDuel.
market.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, man. I'm gonna be holding like
Basically, is Mahomes inevitable? Because
Yeah.
if he is, then you're fucked. So if I did the math here, so if Baltimore wins, and I did this with the math of 210, so for
Okay.
you'll win a little bit more if you
good.
make those other places. So if you'll win $630 if you bet Baltimore, which will end up being, or sorry, you'll win $330 if you bet $300 against Baltimore, and you'll win $420 if you bet $300 for Buffalo. So that's removing the loss from both
Right.
of those. If
Right.
if one of those teams makes it through the AFC, you will win $330 if you bet Baltimore. If you bet, one unit's $300, or you'll win $420 if you bet $300.
Okay.
If you bet Buffalo.
Well, if there's one thing I think maybe people can take away from this whole discussion is that despite where we are at in the calendar in the in the division round here in the playoffs, there is still value to be derived and squeezed out of the markets if you know the right places to look, if you know the right numbers to run.
True.
Edges are far from dead at this point. So make sure you're hopefully you can learn a thing or two. Hopefully anything of what we've discussed or what you've heard here is going to be maybe actionable for you or something you haven't thought of, and maybe you'll fire away on one of these two. But that's kind of part of the point of the discussion here is to find edge that is available in the market, baby. So yeah, I think I'm gonna be playing it for sure. I'm gonna be taking some additional Baltimore and some additional, I guess not additional, but I'm going to be taking Baltimore and some Buffalo.
Where did you get that
Positions.
250? Where did you say it was for Buffalo?
At Rivers.
Both of them at Rivers.
Correct.
Our good friend Rivers.
Yep. So, all right. Should be good. So, because after this week, again, with the field cutting in half, it's more unlikely that you're going to be able to find value left. But depending on who wins, that's devil's in the details, right?
Yeah,
we'll see.
I can't believe that we are seeing that big of a difference with. I don't know. That's crazy. Kansas City. Even if you I use Robbie's numbers to make that.
Okay.
Even if you added like 2 points to their power rating. Like what? There's like a negative 10% edge. It's just crazy to me. I guess he's that inevitable.
God, he must be, man. He must be. I don't know. Let's hope for flukiness, huh? Let's hope for. First of all, did you guys see just a total tangent real quick?
Yeah.
He had a kid, right? We mentioned that. Like, I didn't realize his kids' names. Did you realize what his kids' names are?
No.
Sterling, Bronze, and now Golden. And so the joke was like, bro, how are you ranking your kids by name? Like, how are you?
Yeah, that's true. They keep getting more expensive.
Yeah. How are you?
They skip Silver.
Oh man, Sterling Silver.
Sterling Silver.
Oh,
yeah.
Sterling. Okay, my bad.
But
I guess Platinum's next, baby.
It's funny how like your first one was named Sterling, then the second name. Anyway, it's just a very funny, like weird thing to do, man.
What was the second one's name?
Sterling and Bronze, and now Golden.
Isn't Bronze a combination of like gold and
I don't know.
It's just third place is what it is. It goes 2-3-1. That's the moral of the story.
Okay.
His kids are gonna hate him.
That's wild. No, I didn't know that. I
digress. Yeah, but okay. All right. I think that is going to do it for us. You guys any more takeaways before we turn this over? All right. Yeah. So hopefully it's going to be a good, fun weekend. The championship week will be here before we know it. So we will be back next week breaking down those matchups. And then we'll also be around and make sure we'll do a Super Bowl preview matchup. And hopefully at that point, we'll see on timing, but maybe talk about some fun angles and DGen props as well. Because Super Bowl is one of the events of the year, and you will probably hear this talked about in different capacities, where the public actually does and will move a bunch of lines, a bunch of markets for the Super Bowl, because it's the most bet on events, I think, every year in the world. So you got crazy money flowing in from all corners of the world. It's gonna be fun time. So we'll talk about some of that stuff when the time comes. But all right, guys, it's been real. Appreciate y'all hanging out. Appreciate you tuning in again. If you haven't already liked the video, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends, tell your family, husbands and wives, tell them all. We're gonna be doing breakdowns all the way through the playoffs. And once the off season comes, we'll be doing some more general betting or better sports betting education, as well as having some content around college basketball as well. So stay tuned for all that if you're interested. All right, guys, it's been real. We'll catch you on the flip. See you next week.
Good luck.